I'm Julian Minnesone. I thought Cam Ward was good, but not great against San Francisco. We'll dissect his performance here on the Titans Squad Show.
I'm Brad Hopkins. If the Titans keep getting better, they won't have that first pick of the draft. We'll talk about what that means on the show.
I'm Tyler Rowland. I don't care what pick they end up with. I'm ready for draft season.
Tighten up. It's the Titans Squad. Everything Tennessee Titans every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the heart of Music City, the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Squad up. The Titans Squad Show starts now.
And welcome into the Titans Squad Show. As you heard off the top right there, I'm Julian Minnesone. That's two-time Pro Bowler Brad Hopkins, and that's Locked On Titans host Tyler Rowland here. We're talking about the Titans this week. We have a jam-packed show for you today. Wanted to remind you that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. Of course, if you're in the chat with us live on YouTube, get those questions and comments in the live chat. We'll do our best to answer them at the end of the show. We're going to talk about the Titans lost 37-24 against the San Francisco 49ers this past weekend. A tough day defensively for the Titans. We'll dissect that performance. Of course, a little bit of a rookie review on Cam Ward, what we liked, what we didn't like from the young QB. But of course, we start with our favorite segment, Tighten Up and Tighten Down. So we'll start with B-Hop on this one. B-Hop, what do you tighten up about this week after a loss, but a valiant performance, I'd say, for maybe 3 or 4 quarters?
Yeah, well, in lieu of the holiday season quickly approaching, if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, every day would be Christmas. And what I mean by that is if Cam Ward obviously doesn't overthrow Van Jefferson on the sideline after he beat man coverage, if Joey Sly doesn't miss the field goal to end the half, you're talking about a tied ball game heading into the second half, and who knows what could have happened after that, right? But this is football. It doesn't work that way. I think that's, when you look at the whole Gunnar Helm situation, to me, it kind of wraps up exactly what the Titans did. There was a couple of times where Gunnar lined up off sides and you wanted to just punch him in the face, right? But then he ends up making an unbelievable catch with an unbelievable throw from Cam Ward to get him on board, right? To really kind of keep them at least in the hunt. So that's kind of a microcosm of where it went. But when we look at no sacks, no turnovers, Tony Pollard, another 100-yard rushing day. They held Christian McCaffrey to under 100 yards rushing. As a matter of fact, they held him to under 100 yards all-purpose. He only had 14 yards receiving, which is rare. Big Jeff, he shows he's an athlete. He's a skilled receiver and a sack machine. You know what I mean? Scoring a touchdown. He got a sack, a forced fumble, and a touchdown. He got 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, fellas, that gave the Titans some momentum. It just wasn't enough. So there's a lot to be, at least positive about, but obviously it is yet another loss, which still marks their win total at 2, and that's just not acceptable. But there was growth, to say the least.
Tyler,
I think there's growth. If they would have played like this the whole season, I think this would have been about what we expected. Some of those early season coaching gaffes by Brian Callahan and some of the really bad, ugly games early on, like the Texans 26-0, like that. Those have been bad. And since it happened early in the year, it skewed us. But the reality is this is just like what we expected coming to the year. I don't think anybody would have said that the Titans would have beat the San Francisco 49ers if we were like, all right, let's go game by game. Which games do you think they'll win? San Francisco. None of us would have been like, yeah, I think they'll win that game in San Francisco. Yeah, I think so. They put some garbage time touchdowns up and kept fighting and showed some fight early on and had some chances. And like Brad said, they made some good plays, but again, they make some stupid mistakes. And they just look like a bad football team, but we can say they're growing. So I guess that's the tighten up is they have gotten better. Like they're a more competitive football team right now than they were earlier in the year. The offense is still ugly, but they have good drives and good moments and good plays. Like early on in the season, we couldn't get nothing. You know what I mean? There wasn't a single explosive to get excited about or a good drive to get excited about. Like that happened far too often early. So I guess the tighten up is growth, but the zoom in for me, Gunnar Helm, man, they got one. Gunnar Helm is a beast. And I'll be honest, tighten up for me. I've been trying to tell people all along since April, Gunnar Helm should be tight end 1. They have to feature him. He's an important player. He has the size, just the natural size to block in today's NFL. His hands are going to be reliable. Cam Ward is a gunslinger. He's not pinpoint accurate like Tom Brady. He's never going to be pinpoint accurate. You need guys like Gunnar Helm who are really good with his catch radius and his body control and long arms and big hands that can adjust to the ball. Like, that's what you need. So Gunnar Helm not only is, in my opinion, the most talented of the rookies, the fourth-round rookies. Like, I think Gunnar Helm is a better player and will be a better player than Chim Dike. Like, Gunnar Helm is a starting tight end. Chim Dike is a utility depth wide receiver in the NFL. So Gunnar Helm goes over Bo Scaife, most catches for a rookie tight end in Titans history. He's about 60 yards away, right around 60 yards away from breaking Chigakonkwo's rookie record for receiving yards at 450. He's been super reliable for Cam Ward more than anybody else from a hands perspective, scores touchdowns. Gunnar Helm is a massive tighten up, and if only he wasn't getting out-snapped by Chigakonkwo every single game by 15 snaps or so. If only he would have been treated like the player that he should have been. Maybe he's a rookie, so this and that. We don't know behind the scenes, but he's just clearly, in my opinion, the most talented pass catcher on the Titans, and I'm most excited for him and Cam Ward going forward through the future. It's Nightmare on Helm Street.
Real quick, Julian, before you give your tighten up, I think it's a good problem to have when you have the utilities that we have at tight end. Tight end is a very pivotal position, especially for a young quarterback. And when you can have Chig in the lineup that not only serves as a tight end, but also as a slot receiver, that he's moving around, he's in the backfield sometimes, can be a running back in essence, you know what I mean? Because he has that size and flexibility. He's not necessarily an inline blocker, but you're 1,000% right. Gunnar Helm is the next Travis Kelce. He is the next Mark Andrews. He is the next George Kittle. Well, George Kittle is more like Chigakonkwo, you know what I mean, as far as stature and ability. But when you just look at, like you said, his ability to block, his ability to get separation, his ability to go up and make the big catch, he's hard to tackle. This dude is just a flat-out stud. And I can only imagine him with a more developed or a developing Cam Ward. His star is only going to get brighter, man. I'm right there with you, man. Gunnar Helm is probably the steal of the draft.
Indeed. Remember last year, you guys, when we kind of looked at the season and said, well, bad season, but we always had the Tavondre Sweat strip sack, right? The angry run. We had that play. Well, I look at this season and we're probably going to say, yeah, tough season, but we always had that big Jeff Simmons touchdown. And it was unbelievable from the standpoint of just Jeff knowing the personnel on the other side as far as Cam Ward. He even talked about it after the game. Hey, I know Cam likes to throw across his body more than another quarterback should. So I just ran the opposite way and found some open space. It reminded me a lot of the Xavier Restrepo play against the Seahawks, where Restrepo knows Cam. And so, hey, he's going to the sideline. I'm going the opposite way. And not only that, he high pointed the ball too and was able to make the catch, because if he didn't make that catch, you know how much crap he'd probably get in that locker room after the game. So I think you tweeted this out, Tyler, like that play was worth the watch of that 3-hour game alone. So yeah. I am going that with my Tighten Up this week. If you have any thoughts on Big Jeff, go ahead. But if not, we can go into our Tighten Down.
Well, he's just a beast.
No, dude, are you serious? I mean, to be able to first off, to stay inbounds on the side, running the back of the end zone, right? To have the presence of mind, like you just said. I think he even told Cam he was available. I'm here.
Yes.
Getting separation from the defender. I'm like, is this dude a tight end or what is he? So not only did he obviously be disruptive on the defensive side of the football, but to show his offensive prowess. I mean, the dude I was so proud of him to see that. For the big bodies that don't get to score touchdowns, my man Big Jeff showed up.
He deserves it. He deserves it. This year, he has been everything that people have been asking for from him. And I admit, he's had great years on the field. before. But was the leadership there? There are behind the scenes people saying, is Big Jeff the type of guy to lead? Does he really take accountability? Is he someone who they kind of have to, it was okay, Big Jeff, you wonder. And then this year, the way that he stepped up vocally in the public, and, I can only imagine how that continued. I mean, all throughout training camp, it's Big Jeff is saying this, Big Jeff is saying that. So this is who he is. And it goes off the field too. We're at the point, it's the holiday season. What Jeffery Simmons has become in the community after the ugly incident he had before the draft, after tearing his ACL, and to see him cry when Amy Adams Strunk gave him a chance and him telling her, I won't let you down. I remember him crying on draft night saying that, and my God, he is not. He is a great Tennessee Titan on the field, off the field, what he's done. I could not be more proud to call Jeffery Simmons a Titan. He's cantankerous on the field. Maybe he's done a little this and that could be considered dirty in some parts of the world. You know what? Football's a tough game played by violent, physical people. And you got to have a little edge to you to be the Jeffery Simmons. So, he played a great game. Outside of the touchdown, he had a strip sack fumble again. Yeah. I mean, he's getting close to the double-digit sacks that we talked about before the season. He has just absolutely delivered on and off the field as a leader, as a player. He has blossomed into every single box being checked for a player that you could ever ask for. He's the most dominant interior defensive lineman in the NFL this season with a terrible edge group around him. What an incredible player he is. I'm out on trading him. You keep that guy around. DTs age gracefully as well. It's a position in the league where you can get into your early 30s and still be very, very effective. Jeffery Simmons is the building block. I want Simmons as a Titan for life.
The unfortunate part about Big Jeff is that he is on a losing team. Because if Big Jeff were doing just what Big Jeff is doing, say for the Rams or, for somebody that's a front runner right now, he would be a household name. And that's the unfortunate part. You know what I mean? Because if this team had more eyes on it because we were winning ball games and they were looking at the exploits of Jeffery Simmons, he'd be doing Campbell Soup commercials right now.
Yeah, certainly. Indeed. As far as a Titan down for you guys, what would you say is something that kind of left a lot to be desired on Sunday's game, in your guys' opinion?
Did you hear Julian's changing tone there?
Yeah.
As for a Titan down, we're all like, Jeffrey said, as for a Titan down. Really brought down the level naturally there. That's professional work. I think my Titan down is, I don't want to do too much Cam Ward because I know we'll assess him as total. But my Titan down, and this is going to sound very bah humbug. I did play Scrooge in a school play once, so I guess it's natural for me. But I'm ready for the season to be over. Bah humbug. We've learned all that we can about this team. I think we know what we need to know about the players. We've seen all the good from Cam Ward that I need. We've seen the bad and know what Cam Ward needs to work on. We know who the players that they can actually take with them are. Yeah, the offensive line has played better, but if you look at the financial aspect, the offensive line was going to be 4 out of 5 guys next year. Anyway, they were just looking to replace that right guard. Maybe they do a post-June 1st cut of Lloyd Cushenberry, but I don't know that's going to happen. So I think we know the offensive line is better than it's looked, and maybe Cam, being a rookie quarterback, has made the O-line look worse in some times, and they've disappointed for the level that we expected. But we know what that is. We know Helm, DK, Spears. We kind of know who's going to be on the team next year. We know what the deficiencies are, where they have to attack. We just don't know exactly what that draft pick is going to be, but we can see the cap space being tops in the NFL. We can see everything, and I'm just okay, sim to end of season. Get my Madden controller out. Let's sim to end of year. Let's go, because they're going to play the Chiefs. They might win. The Saints game, they might win. They might lose both those games, too. It's no guarantee. The Saints are playing pretty good football right now, and Tyler Shuck is spinning it. And Gardner Minshew and a Chiefs team with a ton of experience, they can still come in and wall up the Titans. It's not like they can't do that without Mahomes. This team isn't above losing to a backup quarterback. And then they play the Jags at the end of the year, and with the Texans running, that's probably going to be an important game. Jacksonville isn't just going to sit their guys and let the Titans have that one, most likely. So I don't think we're going to learn anything new about the team. At this point, it's just about the enjoyment of watching the football, and this team isn't super enjoyable, quite honestly, at this stage in the season. So My Titan down is just that we have this December stretch left because I'm ready to feel hopeful again. I'm ready to get a new coach. I'm ready to start adding some new players and start being excited about the 2026 Tennessee Titans. This season has worn me down.
Well, let's hear a little bit from the interim, and it's not like I have a sound bite, but I'm going to quote him because he basically will articulate my Titan down. He said, "You got to get off the field. You got to be able to get off the field when you convert at a high rate. That percentage, it's tough. That's when you give up all the points. So you got to be able to get off the field on third down." So the Niners converted 9 third downs on 15 attempts. That's 60%. The Titans converted only 3 third downs on 9 attempts. That's 30%. The Niners held the ball for 37 minutes and 5 seconds. The Titans held the ball for 22 minutes and 55 seconds. The Niners ran 70 total plays compared to the Titans' 49 plays. That's the ball game. That's the ball game, period. So a Titan down was that they weren't able to find ways to make plays, and maybe it was the injuries. Maybe it was the fact that 18 of those first downs that they got in the ball game were scored through the air. They were just running all over the secondary. You know what I mean? Just their ability to continue drives and win the time of possession are what put the Titans behind. And I know Tyler talked about garbage touchdowns in the fourth quarter, but those 2 touchdowns that they had in the fourth quarter were more than the 49ers scored, which was only 6. And unfortunately, that long drive that the Niners were able to put together to start the second half, that started in 2 touchdowns for them in the third quarter. So if they could have got off the field better than they did in that ball game, it probably would have been a more competitive situation, putting more stress and pressure on a team that had won 8 to 9 games already at that point, and were fighting for their playoff position. Right, 9 games. So at the end of the day, they were super competitive on the road against a team that has life. But there are just some things that just didn't bounce their way, and unfortunately, they weren't able to solve the issue of being able to get off the field and get the ball back to their offense.
Not only that, B-Hop, but slow starts too. I think we've talked ad nauseum on this show about getting off to a faster start and how much of a difference that makes, especially for a team where you're not really good enough to climb out of a hole against the San Francisco 49ers or a team that's equivalent to that. You get down 14-3 and you fight back to get within 7 at halftime, but then you come out of the second half and also start off sluggish as well. So back-to-back starts of each half where you start off slow, that's going to put you behind the 8 ball. And this team, as I mentioned, they're just not good enough right now, consistently offensively enough to, you can guarantee, they're going to fight their way back into this game. And they weren't getting enough stops, like you mentioned, B-Hop, to get off the field to fight their way back into this game. So that was probably the Titan down for me, is just slow starts continue to plague this team in a lot of their losses.
Julian, I will tell you, I got to say, I think that's a coaching thing. I think about the opening script on offense. When you're on offense, coaches usually have that first 10 to 15 plays plotted out. Why do they do that? How can they predetermine that? Because they see things on tape that they know will work against the defense. We know that on 2nd and 8, you run this coverage, we're running this concept. We know on first down, if we line up in this front, you're going to react in this way, and if we run this play, it's going to smoke that. Well, why can't the Titans score on opening drives? Why do the Titans come out and have bad starts? Because their coaches don't have a good plan. They don't have the right plays to attack the defense. They don't have a good enough, they aren't talented enough offensive minds to have a good enough plan ready to attack the defense and score. That's why they've scored 1 touchdown on an opening drive all year long. Because where other coaches have the best part of their plan lined up for the very beginning, the Titans coaching staff doesn't have that talent on offense and can't have a good enough plan to attack the defense. So it's like they have slow starts all the time, because that's where the coaching staff's preparation really shines, is at the beginning of the game, when they know before the team adjusts to what they've seen, and the Titans coaches aren't any good, so they don't get any advantage early in the game in that regard. So to me, that is, you're right, the slow starts continue to plague the team, but the slow starts, the real reason for those slow starts is the Titans coaching staff isn't good enough to have a good initial plan, so when the adjustments start to kick in, they're already from behind.
Well, my thoughts are the slow starts are a microcosm of bad teams. They don't come into the game, the very beginning, with the kind of energy that says, I have the confidence to win today. Something has to happen through the course of the game, whether it's them staying close, whether it's them getting a touchdown first, whether it's somebody making a great play. Something exciting then jumpstarts their ability to believe that they have the ability to win the ball game. So what happens is they don't have Les Steckel, one of our offense coordinators back in the day, used to say we have to avoid stinking thinking. Stinking thinking is running rampant throughout the building when you're losing ball games because it's easy for them to fall into the doldrums of saying, well, here we go again. They scored on their first possession, which the Niners scored on their first 5 possessions. Here we go again. We don't have an answer. We're trying to fight from behind. So it just seems like we're falling into the same mud that has been plaguing this team's ankles for the entire season from the very beginning of the ball game. When you're a team that expects to win, when you come out of that damn tunnel, bro, you're coming out of it with your hair on fire. You're coming out of it with some confidence, with some zest, with just you knowing what's about to happen to the other team, right? When you're a team that's losing and you continue to lose where you've only won twice all year, you're just thinking, well, I hope we win. Well, I hope we do something different. And that hope right there is never the kind of energy, it's never the kind of mindset that you want to have if you want to have a fast start. It's very hard to have a fast start when you've been getting punched in the mouth all season because that's what you're used to. You're just used to getting beat down, right? And it's usually through the course of the ballgame that they find some sort of like footing to be like, hey, we're in this. Hey, we're making plays. One positive thing I saw was, guess what? The team, the unit that we've been talking so much trash about all season, they gave Cam time in the pocket.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He wasn't running around under duress. And this is without Dan Moore being in there. They had Udo in there at left tackle, for goodness sake. You know what I'm saying? So they were able to do some consistent things. Yeah, that was a shot, whatever. But the point is they played better, than I guess most would have anticipated at that point. And I just feel like when you're talking about teams that are struggling for an identity, struggling for leadership, struggling for all these things, it's hard for them to have that Ray Lewis kind of doing his little thing when he comes out of there and gets everybody jacked up, right? This team just doesn't have that kind of component, so therefore it's hard for them to start fast.
Petition now to get B-Hop in the locker room in the last 3 games to give that pep talk as they run out onto the field because I'm ready to run through a brick wall for you, B-Hop. I'll tell you that.
We had this
someone
big
to do
giant
the
maniac.
Ray Lewis dance. I'm in.
we had this big giant maniac in the backfield when I was playing. He wore the number 27, and he would always say, "We need to have a controlled rage," and he would get us all jacked up. We'd have the hair on our skin, we just standing up, and we just go out there, we ready to kill somebody. You know what I mean? So to have that kind of consistency, to have a dude that just walks around with that kind of bravado, that kind of like moxie to him that other people can tap into. Because not everybody on that team that was going to take the field was the type of guy that could say, this is what we're going to do today. But we had a few of them. You know what I mean? And those dudes were easy to then relate to and therefore easy to buy into that confidence. And then that's what led us to our own identity and knowing that we were going to give somebody a whooping that day.
Indeed. Confidence is key. And also, to Tyler's point, makes that head coaching search very key as well, especially for the guy we're going to talk about on the other side of the break, Mr. Cam Ward. What we liked and what we didn't like, we dissect his performance on the Titan Squad show. Next. Keep it here. All right, NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. The Titans are 3.5-point underdogs against Gardner Minshew and the Chiefs. Maybe that's some action that you want to bet on. So if you want to be right in the middle of that action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. All right, fellas, wanted to talk about Cam Ward's performance and a little bit of a rookie review here. Finishes the day 18-29 for 170, 2 touchdowns. So that's back-to-back weeks with 2 touchdown passes. My thoughts on it, as I said at the beginning of the show, I thought he was good, not great. What did you guys think about his performance this past weekend?
I couldn't even give him good, to be honest, Julian. I got to say, it's, as the kids would say, it was mid. I would say it was a step below good. He didn't do, he's doing certain things better, which are more boring and less impactful, but he's doing them better. But there are certain things that, he's still missing on. The deep shot to Van Jefferson, I thought there were a few opportunities where he made some misreads, and there's Chim DK is open underneath on an easy one, and he just kind of misses it. But getting the ball out of his hands and not letting pressure turn into sacks really good. He's still playmaking. I think some of these easy coordinated, schemed up plays, as I like to call them, as we've talked about throughout the year, I think he's doing those things with more efficiency. He's more accurate, on the underneath stuff, on the quick screens. He's just more buttoned up overall in the operation of everything. But the deep accuracy is a problem. And quite frankly, if you don't pat yourself on the back, nobody's going to do it. But go watch my scouting report video on Cam Ward before the draft back in April on my film channel. Like, there were 3 things that I was worried about. His accuracy and his timing, just going through the progressions and being on time. His ball control with the fumbles and some of the interceptions he threw in college that were really bad, like just being smart with the ball. And then the deep accuracy. He's so bad. And listen, I'm not a mechanics guy. I'm not a quarterback guru. I can't be like, oh, the quarterback's back foot, his, big toe was pointing 87 degrees. It needs to be at 90. So the ball was 3 inches to the left. Like, I can't do all that. I don't know that. But when you watch Cam in the pocket, when he throws deep passes to the outside, it's like his feet are aimed to throw it down the middle. So like his feet are aimed down the middle and he's trying to like open his back hip up to torque his body this way and throw, and the ball is literally going to the sideline, to the other side of the sideline. Like, he's deep, he's far. It's just so scattershot to the outside. It's on the college tape. It's happened this year. And I hope that the next coach is able to fix that mechanical issue. Now, he played 5 years in college and didn't fix it. He's played a year in the NFL, and Brian Callahan's a quarterback guy and couldn't fix it. Will it be fixed? He might just always be a bad guy to the deep and outside. And I want to talk about, as we talk about him, what they can do going forward to help with that and to support him. Not every quarterback is an A+ across the board at every attribute and every throw. Like, that's not how life works. So Cam Ward can be deficient in certain areas and still be a really, really good player if the Titans help him in those deficiencies, and he helps himself by taking small steps of improvement. But it kind of goes back to what I said there in my Titan Down. Like, we know who Cam Ward is. He's checked the boxes of playmaking and arm talent and moxie and leadership and the operational stuff and leading the team and having the work ethic to get it done. Like, we know who he is now. We also know that he needs to get better going through the progressions, quicker, seeing defenses, which every young quarterback does. Put that all on the shopping list. But he's got to get better with his deep accuracy, and he's got to make sure that he's more careful with the football. The fumbles were a problem. He's tamped that down. That's an improvement, But, we know what Cam Ward does well, what Cam Ward needs to do better. And now it's about how to get him to do that and what the best way to get that out of him is. We have our answers on who Cam Ward is right now, in my opinion.
Be hot.
Does this sound like Cam Ward? A progressive development or increase in size, capacity, or complexity, encompassing physical changes like a plant or child getting bigger, and abstract advancements like gaining knowledge or skills. Essentially, a move from a simpler to a more mature and expanded state driven by cell division, enlargement, or new learning. That is the definition. That is definition of growth. And that's what we're seeing from Cam. We're seeing a rookie who has never been in a situation, who's always had to gamble on himself, who has been a no star for a reason because he had to develop into the player that the college ranks would acknowledge he is. And the same thing is unfolding in front of our eyes. I know the expectation for anybody that's taken first in the draft is that he must be a gunslinger. You got to be able to do all these things to give our team a chance to win. But in essence, growth is uncomfortable. Growth actually sucks. Because when you think about when you were growing, sometimes your body just physically hurt because you're going through all these changes, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what growth is. And what we're seeing right now is, unfortunately, the growth of our quarterback is not resulting in wins and losses, in that category. But we're seeing him incrementally get better every single week, which is the only thing that you would ask him to do. In the NFL, you're never supposed to make the same mistake twice. Now, he's done a good job of doing just that. He's starting to see his shortcomings, navigating the pocket, using protection as a support system versus something that's been a liability for him. We're starting to see him be smarter in the game and then realize exactly what his strengths are. So, while there's a lot of, man, Cam ain't this, Cam ain't that, Cam's a damn rookie. And at the end of the day, his growth is something that I'm enjoying watching, even though it doesn't necessarily make me feel good to say, man, the Titans are kicking butt, because I'm not wearing a paper bag on my face, but I am out of town, and I'm not going to be wearing my Titans gear proudly because if I hear something smart, I might end up what happened when you guys come get me out of jail. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I like what I'm saying because I don't see Cam being stuck in the mud. I see him climbing a mountain, but that mountain is still something to climb.
My thing is, if he hits Van Jefferson on that play, right, it's probably 6 or 7, and we're probably thinking about his performance in a much different light. And so that goes back to I think Cam is finding out sometimes the hard way that even one missed throw, one broken down play like that could be the difference between how your day is perceived, right? One thing that I do like, and maybe this is more of a testament to the growth that B-Hop talked of the offense as a whole, 24 points in 3 of the last 4 games. I think that's a step forward than what they were under Brian Callahan during that tough stretch at the start of the season. And what would you guys say is probably the toughest division in football? The NFC West, right? With the Rams, the Seahawks, the 49ers. Yes. We don't count the we won't count the Cardinals, but those 3 opponents.
That NFC North is kind of gross.
NFC North is pretty good too.
But that's probably number 1, but I would say the NFC West is probably number 2. And the AFC South, to your point, look how good the AFC South is other than the Titans, but we are the Titans. So we got to play the other good teams in the AFC South. So that's 3 divisions right there that are like top 4 division groupings.
So to that
point,
to my
point taken. Sorry to derail your thought.
No, you're good. You're good. 3 of some of the better performances offensively for this team were against the NFC West this year. You talk about the Rams, you had 19 points there, and you were in that game in the fourth quarter. The Seahawks, you had 24 points there. You were in that game in the fourth quarter. And then this past weekend against the Niners, where you played one really bad quarter and you still got 24 points off the board. So my thing is if Cam can consistently grow and progress, what this offense could look like if you're already scoring this amount of points with not exactly an all-star cast around him right now.
No, 100%. I mean, that has to get, because the guys who are making the plays to make those points happen are like the Gunnar Helms of the world. You know what I mean? So that's what they need. I do just think, though, you're right that Cam Ward, one play can taint the perception, but I didn't enjoy that, when Cam missed that and you start to criticize the deep accuracy, people go, oh, it's one play. Every quarterback in the NFL misses throws every week. And you're right, but patterns are what I pick up on. I'm not somebody who's like, oh, one play, let's dog him. It's, hey, he's missed a lot of these this year. He was 13 for 40 on passes over 20 yards going into the game. Like, this isn't, I had somebody tell me, oh, you're trying to create a false narrative. No, you look at the film, you look at the data, you look at the college scouting report. Like, this is a pattern for him. So you're right, one play can taint perception of an individual game, but I also don't want it to feel like, well, that was just one play and it's an overreaction to criticize the deep accuracy when the data and the film do back up that is a concern for him going forward. But you're right in the totality. Look, the last 5 games, 7 total touchdowns, 1 interception, 62% completion percentage. They've scored more points, like you're talking about. Like, he has done certain things much better as of late that has led to maybe him not looking incredible, but the offense functioning as well. One thing that people never think of, Cam Ward is checking into better runs now. He's learning fronts. We talk about coverage, but him recognizing a defensive front and saying, hey, we need to get out of this run, or we need to can this and get to a run against this front. That little chess game that Cam Ward has to play based on fronts that he's never seen and pre-snap and post-snap and seeing them adjust. Like, how many times have we seen they show a pressure look? Can to the next play because we got a pressure look. And then the defense backs out. And now we're in a pressure look play, and they backed out of it. That little chess match, Cam is going to get so much better at the mental part of this, and I think he has gotten a lot better at the mental part of playing quarterback here in the second third of the season, second half of the season. And that's been a part of the Tennessee Titans offense functioning better throughout games. So I try to be balanced here with, we got to point out the real stuff that he has to get better at and be honest there. But there are some things that your casual fan who watches on Sunday wouldn't necessarily think of that I think Cam Ward is doing much better right now as well. And that should be exciting because that stuff is almost Look at Matt Stafford and old man Peyton Manning and Phillip Rivers this week and Tom Brady playing until 40 and stuff. Those guys didn't have the physical talent they did during their prime, but they were so smart that they could still beat defenses with their brain. So if Cam can get a little more on that track to match his physical talents, that's when we get the player that we're hoping for.
B-Hop, do you have any final thoughts before we go to break?
No, I mean, the definition, and I hate leaning on AI because it's going to replace us all one day. But that was a good one that it gave me as far as what the definition of growth was. So, and I do believe that that's what we're seeing. Yeah,
certainly a better football team than maybe they were a month ago. I think we could probably agree on that. They're at least more competitive.
Mike McCoy made them better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of people out there try to defend Brian Callahan, and every week you see certain people writing articles of, oh, well, Brian Callahan, when the Titans were, there's been a big, no, Mike McCoy, way better head coach, even though I don't think Mike McCoy is a good head coach, way better than Brian Callahan. This football team's playing much better. Bo Hardegree in the offense has cut out some of the fat, some of the bad run games. I can't believe that we're not going to talk about the run game, Brad. They finally got the run game going. Freaking 300 total yards and combined in 2 weeks.
I mentioned Tony Pollard's 100 yards. Yeah.
Yep. So, they were cooking 100%. With that. So, you got to give credit where it's due. Mike McCoy, the good game plan against Cleveland, the one win they've gotten since that Cardinals thing was a good coaching game plan that had them ready to go. Mike McCoy is certainly a much better head coach than Brian Callahan, even if neither of them, I think, are good enough to actually be one of the 32.
Indeed. And on the other side of the break, we're going to go to the other side of the ball, the defensive side. What went wrong in allowing the 37 points to the San Francisco 49ers and what we hope to see moving forward from that side of the ball as well. Stick around. All right. Ever feel like your money just disappears each month? It happens fast. A few subscriptions here, an impulse buy there, and suddenly the numbers in your bank account don't match the numbers in your head. Rocket Money helps you get clarity, track every dollar, and stay in control of your finances. Because managing your money shouldn't feel like a second job. Rocket Money does the heavy lifting for you so you can save more and stress less. For example, I have a lot of subscriptions to streaming services, as we all do. Well, Rocket Money finds subscriptions you forgot you were paying for and helps you clean them up quickly. Take control of your finances and cancel your unwanted subscriptions with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked-on today. That's rocketmoney.com/locked-on. rocketmoney.com/locked-on. All right, fellas. So going to talk about the defensive side of the ball here. Allow 37 points to San Francisco, the most they've allowed in over a month. But there were a lot of injuries on that side of the ball this past weekend. Obviously, they go in with no Jalen Armour-Davis again, but Kevin Winston gets hurt, Mike Brown gets hurt, Xavier Woods gets hurt. And so, a lot of, I guess, skeleton crew, I guess you would say, on the secondary on Sunday. Tyler, what did you make of the defensive performance? Can we chalk it up to they're shorthanded, or is it just the Niners are just a better team and the personnel is a lot better and it was a subpar performance as a whole?
I mean, honestly, it's full circle. Think about everything that I've said, that I think about the Titans coaching staff and all that. And I think Kyle Shanahan is the best offensive coach of my life. Like, he is diabolically awesome. Just a little idea of Kyle Juszczyk, the Juice, they call him, their fullback, number 44. The way that Kyle Shanahan uses him, this dude lines up out in the slot. He brings him in motion. He motions into the backfield, and then he gets in the fullback position with a lead block in halfback lead down the middle. And then they bring him in motion, and they run halfback lead, but they play action fake, and they insert Kyle Juszczyk through the B gap out into a wheel route, and he's wide open down the sideline. Then a couple plays later, they motion him in, and instead of leading up through the A gap, he comes out to the C gap for a kick out block, and they run a wind back with Christian McCaffrey. Like, this dude is a diabolical genius on the offensive side of the ball. Think about what he did earlier in the season with Mac Jones and no wide receivers and the offensive line and no George Kittle. Like, Kyle Shanahan is an absolute wizard of football. And I love Kyle Shanahan, if you can't tell. I would do terrible, terrible things for him to be the coach of the Tennessee Titans. Like, he is a mastermind of all levels. And there's no way that the Titans defense, with the talent issues that they have, the injuries in the secondary, Denard Wilson is a good defensive coordinator. He is not on the level of a Kyle Shanahan as a play caller and designer, though. Like, that's just not. And they rolled the Titans with their what they were doing is the Titans play a lot of zone coverages, like cover 4 and cover 3. And the Titans have coverage rules in those where if your man goes across the field, it turns into man coverage instead of zone. And you relinquish your zone coverage and you stay with your man. And then the safety back deep is supposed to pick up for you if anything happens to come into the zone that you vacated with your man rule responsibilities. And Kyle Shanahan just played Denard Wilson's rules all day long by bringing guys deep across the field and then having an intermediate go. And so that he knows that that's going to turn into man and nobody's going to be in the deep third on the other side. And they just ran deep crosser, deep in, deep crosser, deep in. And they'd have these deep play action drops with 6 guys back, and they knew the Titans couldn't get pressure. I mean, it was just a masterful plan. So when that's going on and you're playing a Pizza Hut delivery guy in the secondary at safety, you don't have a lot of chance. So the 49ers are a great football team with a great coach and great players. I can't hate the Titans defense has been massively improved in the last 6 or 7 weeks. They've been top 10 in sacks and first in missed tackles. And, they've been good for what they have because Denard Wilson is a good coordinator. But this is, climbing up the mountain in flip-flops. It ain't happening.
That's some great analogies where they're climbing up the mountain in flip-flops. You kidding? That's awesome.
I'm a dog.
Follow that.
I do this. This is what I do.
I see.
I
see.
I talk.
I see. I just, it's easy to chronicle the struggles that this team has had, especially defensively. Some of it is, the talent that they don't have. You know what I mean? Some of it is scheme. And there probably are a lot of very well-qualified offensive coordinators that have taken advantage of us being down in the situation that we're in right now. Think about it. Denard Wilson is going in his, 3rd year as a defensive coordinator, 2nd year as a defensive coordinator. Not a lot of experience being in that seat. But it's not to say that he's not getting better, at least designing the kind of stuff that actually can be problematic. Yes. And also, if he had the top to bottom, front 4 to the back end, guys that could actually flat out get after it. Imagine if L'Jarius Sneed was healthy and playing at the level that he was when he wore the red with Kansas City. You know what I'm saying? Imagine that coupled with, Cedric Gray playing sideline to sideline, the big bodies up front really getting after the quarterback. Then this would be something that, that Denard Wilson could work with and create consistency on that side of the football. And it does play into everything. Offense does play into defense. Defense does play into offense, because if the defense gets off the field and doesn't allow those scoring opportunities to happen, then an offense has more opportunities to put points on the board. If they put points on the board, guess what? It puts the other defense in the pickle, other offense in the pickle to try and match their intensity. So they come hand in hand. Those special teams in the mix too, because that matters. Field position game is a huge effect in that, right? But what we're talking about is just the team just not being consistent from top to bottom with not only the play calling and the guys calling the plays, but the dudes that are actually tasked with running and executing.
You mentioned Cedric Gray there. I wanted to talk about him for a little bit. 16 tackles. Again, it's the 3rd time this season that he's gotten at least 16. 8th game with double-digit tackles. We've talked about him before as far as like when you think about where he was at the start of the year, where everyone said, oh, James Williams or Cedric Gray. Well, Cedric Gray, this is the reason why he won the job and is more likely than not under Mike Borgonzi's list of guys who are going to try to change the culture of this team and be a staple piece moving forward. Did you guys expect Cedric to be this kind of productive where he's near the top of the NFL in tackles? Because I surely didn't think, especially after missing time last year, that he'd be this productive.
Well, yet again, we've hit in the 4th round in the draft. He was the 4th round picker last year, right? Gunnar Helm was the 4th round pick this year. Alec Ayuman, a 4th round pick. I mean, that 4th round for the Titans the past couple of seasons has been a ringer, man. We've gotten some dudes. So I'm just curious to see who we get in the 4th round this year. You know what I mean? Because that might be the guy we're talking about, And the thing is, that's when you really want to make it have some hay, right? It's in those middle rounds, the 3rd round, the 4th round, even the 5th round. The first rounders
teams are built.
Exactly. First rounders, you know what you get with a first rounder because they got all the attention. They've gotten all the exposure. They probably have been really good to afford being first rounders. It is what it is. Seventh rounders can be a surprise too because they're barely not even supposed to make the roster. You know what I mean? If you end up seeing a guy that's starting from the seventh round, like who the hell missed on this cat? Everybody. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So when you talk about those middle rounds and like you talk about Tyler making your team worth something, Cedric Gray just showed that at least somebody in the Titans building is doing their homework and discovering who these guys are actually taking advantage of players or teams that have passed on this guy for at least 3 rounds to grab him what he did.
You know, there have been 3 young players who have been pretty impressive on the defense throughout their opportunities this year. Kevin Winston, Cedric Gray, and Marcus Harris. And what do all those guys have in common? They're explosive athletes. They're fast. And they shine on the Titans because the Titans are so slow. Cody Barton, one of the slowest middle linebackers in the league. Amani Hooker, Xavier Woods, 2 of the slowest starting safeties in the NFL. Like, a lot of guys on the defense are slow-footed or older players. And so when you see a guy like Cedric Gray, I remember a play from early in the season. I think it might have been the Colts, but Cody Barton is right behind the running back, and Cedric Gray is 2 feet behind Cody Barton. And Cedric Gray runs past Cody Barton to make the tackle on the running back. And it's just like, whoa. You know, like he looked like he was shot out of a cannon next to Cody Barton, you know, like, and I'm not trying to hate on the older players. They're older players. They aren't super explosive, but this Titans team has to get faster, younger, more explosive, more violent. You know what I mean? And seeing players like Marcus Harris show speed and good man coverage ability. Yeah, he takes his lumps out there. He gave up a couple catches to Ricky Pearsall, but Ricky Pearsall is a first rounder. Marcus Harris is a 6th rounder, and Harris held his ground. That's exciting. Kevin Winston gets hurt in the game. Cedric Gray gets hurt in the game as well. Sad. Again, let's sim to the end of the season. No more injuries with the young guys. Like, we know what we got. Winston has been up and down and had bad moments and good moments, but he's been so impressive in the plays that he's made, just how long and physical and violent and quick he is to the line of scrimmage. So I think it's no shock that these are the young guys that are helping the defense and showing out on the defense as they've been a little bit better, along with Jeffery Simmons up front. And Brad, you mentioned, imagine if they still had Draymond Jones. Imagine if they still had Roger McCreary. Imagine if they still had Jarvis Brownlee Jr. Like, this is a mash crew right now for the Titans, and Denard Wilson will get another job. As soon as the Titans hire a new coaching staff, he'll get another job as a DC because he's done a good job. But I just think it's no coincidence that, you know, the Titans defense has actually got better when they've lost some guys, because some of the guys that have come in and got more opportunities are younger players with speed and explosiveness, and that's what you need right now.
Yeah, I like Marcus. When you think about Marcus, where he was picked too, he's turned into a nice young player for being a 6th round pick.
Yes, I think he's got a spot next year. Like, we talk about the cornerback position in here, you know, we got some games left, but we'll spin the conversation to the roster and changing things at the end of the year here on the show. But
sure,
I think that you can go into 2026 and say, Marcus Harris is our starting slot cornerback. We need to get 2 outside cornerbacks. So instead of having 3 open cornerback spots, which is an outright disaster, now you can at least say, I think Marcus Harris can be, and they can use that big nickel package with 3 safeties in next year, because they're going to have these safeties on the team, and Kevin Winston's good at that role. So if you have Kevin Winston in the slot on early downs as the big nickel, and you got Marcus Harris as a guy who can be that passing down slot like the Titans used to do with Elijah Molden and Buster Screen. Crazy to bring up his name, but that's what they did that year. I just think that having at least 1 cornerback spot filled with a young guy that has promise like Marcus Harris is so incredibly uplifting. And now you need 2 outside boundary corners. You get 1 in free agency, you draft 1 potentially pretty early, maybe you hit 2 in free agency, an expensive 1, a cheap 1, and you draft 1 in the first 3 rounds of the draft. But at least cornerback has the potential to be solvable in a good way when you have at least 1 of those 3 spots filled.
Indeed. Well, if you guys are in the live chat with us on YouTube during the show right now, make sure to get your questions and comments in. We're going to do our best to answer them on the other side of the break in our Titans Talk segment. We also wanted to talk about the O-line a little bit, because I know B-Hop is itching to talk about them the rest of the way. So let's do that on the Titan Squad show when we return. Keep it here. All right, so wanted to chat about the O-line and the run game and how that kind of goes hand in hand. Last week, obviously a great performance running the ball against the Browns, and the O-line is able to keep Myles Garrett for the most part in check. He got that token sack, of course, but that was going to happen regardless. I think this week was to prove hey, last week wasn't a fluke. We could do it back-to-back weeks, and the Titans certainly did that with another 100-plus yard performance. No sacks from the O-line as well. B-Hop and Tyler, how important is this stacking performances for the O-line, considering, as Tyler mentioned earlier in the show, that the group next year is pretty much going to be the same outside of maybe Kevin Zeitler, who is only on a one-year deal and a little bit older. This is the group you're going with. So how important is this for those guys to gain some confidence and stack really good performances as you head into next year with this O-line?
Well, it's not just stacking the performances, it's stacking games. It's having time to play with one another. That's the important part. That's how you develop cohesion. The longer that this unit plays intact as it is, without these, changes here and there, the better they'll be. And you're starting to see the results of that as the weeks go on, right? This team showed you its strength up front is running the football. Pass protection is a liability for them. If they can run the football and stay out of penalty situations that create passing downs, then you start to see the consistency of them being able to convert third down and stay on the field longer and ultimately get into scoring range by getting into the red zone that puts a pickle on the other offense. So I think that when they're able to establish the run game, when Tony Pollard has the kind of performances that are had, even Tyjae Spears, in essence, when he's filling in and coming out of the backfield, when they're actually able to run the football or even show an RPO style system where there's options for the quarterback to do certain things, then that allows them to not necessarily be in those situations that create sacks, that create long down and distances, and ultimately end up affecting field position. So that's the reason why running the football is so important. It's not like we're saying, hey, man, we want to have a boring pedestrian brand of football. No, that's where the consistency comes, and being able to control line of scrimmage by having those dudes being able to fire out and impose their will versus retreating and then somehow being exploited in one-on-one situations. And next thing you know, Cam is trying to make something happen because the pocket is broken down and he's got to roll someplace and he's trying to make some off script or off throw, across his body or whatever else, versus sitting in a pocket with set feet and going through a progression to find an open receiver and delivering an accurate ball. So it's important for them to be able to establish Tony first and foremost, because that does create consistency in play calling. It gives you more expansive options when it comes to the playbook itself. And that's why those guys playing more unified up front with the time that they've had over the last, 14, 15 weeks, they just seem to get better and better. Because like I mentioned earlier in the show, Cam wasn't under duress. There were plenty of times back there I was like, damn, Cam's having a cup of coffee back there, man, which that wasn't the case in the first few weeks, was it? This dude was running for his life all over the place because people were just getting beat like drums. Every now and then, every play, somebody was getting beat up front. But now you're starting to see more consistency. Even on the edges, they're playing better. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, time is what's making them better.
That pocket he had in that Gunnar Helm throw was pretty nice.
Yes.
Yeah. Pretty nice pocket there.
Yeah, even the backups. Corey Levin played center for a couple of weeks when Cushenberry is out. He came in for Zeitler when Zeitler got banged up again in the game. Ali Udo is in. Ali Udo played for Latham a little bit. Like, even the backups have done a pretty good job, quite honestly. And I think for me, everything's about the future right now. I'm really just ready for the future. And Brad, what you mentioned about banking those reps together. I love my analogies. I love my dating advice stuff too. I'll give you a positive one here. Me and my fiance, when we come home from going out to eat, the dog's got to go out and the animals got to be fed their dinner. Well, I take the dog out. She gets the food ready for the animals, and we don't even have to say it anymore. We just come in the house and do our job because we've done it so many times. We don't even got to communicate, hey, you're going to do that, I'm going to do that, like we did it. It's just, all right, we're home. It's time. You do your job, you do mine, and that greases the skids. It makes everything function well when you know somebody like that. And for the Titans offensive line, Brad knows you block certain plays differently based on the front that you see. You get a tight front where it's head up on both guards. You might have to run the play a little bit differently. Instead of you going up to the second level, it might be the guy next to you that's going up to the second level, and now you got to do the reach block because the defense is coming out in a different look, and we got to adjust. Having the answers to those questions from last year going into a season, that's absolutely critical to hit the ground running for next year. So I think that is something that I find very important, is that they banked all these reps together so that they can know how to operate and how to adjust. And it's kind of like having a little leg up on the competition going into next season, where hopefully the Titans are a much better football team. But I'll say this too. I hate to be the wet blanket. But they've been actually, that's a lie. I love being the wet blanket. Let me not lie to you guys. But the Titans have been able to run the ball the last couple of weeks because of the fronts that they're seeing. The Browns play a lot of four-man fronts, wide alignments. The 49ers are basically an exclusively four-man front team. The Titans have used extra tight ends and jumbo tight end packages to extend the line of scrimmage, which allows for leverage blocks, like down blocks on people. We talked about it with the Myles Garrett runs last week, how Ali Udoh could get a down block on Myles Garrett, where you don't got to beat Myles Garrett head up one-on-one right in his chest. You get a down block where you out-leverage him off the snap. You have a pre-snap advantage on him. So the Titans are extending the line of scrimmage with tight ends and jumbo offensive linemen against four-man fronts that aren't stacking the line of scrimmage, and they're having easy access to the second level, easy leverage blocks where they can down block on a guy because they're already on his outside shoulder. I just think that the particular scheme that they've seen from Jim Schwartz and Robert Saleh has been conducive to the success in the run game. I don't think that they're all of a sudden have turned into a good running the football team. So I guess maybe that's some wet blanket, but just looking at the scheme of the two defenses they've faced the last 2 weeks, I think it's pretty clear how that's helped them, because a lot of teams early in the season would put a ton of people on the line of scrimmage. They'd try to jump through the backside of a down block. They try to jump through a double team so that they can't climb to the second level. And that pressure on the line of scrimmage prevented the Titans' run game from getting going. So once they get back to playing teams that do that, like Kansas City, who's going to put a lot of pressure on the line of scrimmage, like Jacksonville, who already did that to them, like once they get back to a team that's doing that, I think the run game may go back to the worst in the NFL, that we've been used to for most of the season.
We've talked about the head coaching search throughout the season, because obviously it's something the Titans are going to be, it's the top move that the Titans need to make at the top of their priority list there. We've had a couple questions in our live chat about it. One more specific from Sports Talk TN. What do y'all think about Anthony Weaver as head coach with Denard Wilson as a DC and hire a good OC? Anthony Weaver is the defensive coordinator over at Miami. What do you guys think about that possibility, or even just thoughts on head coaching search in general too?
Let me just say that's not going to happen. That specific example, Anthony Weaver is a defensive play caller. So he's not going to keep Denard Wilson to do the job that he does. So I'm not trying to sports talk TN.
Sure.
Thank you for the question. But Anthony Weaver is a defensive play caller. You're not going to have Anthony Weaver keep Denard. If the Titans hire a defensive coach, Denard Wilson is gone. It's cut and dry. It's simple. You're not going to hire a guy to do a job and then have him keep the guy who's doing that job right now. That Anthony Weaver would call the plays, and they would not have a defensive coordinator who also wants to call plays to prove himself. Denard Wilson will go elsewhere if they hire a defensive coach. So Anthony Weaver is an okay head coaching candidate. I'm fine to talk about Anthony Weaver as an option. His strong leadership. The Dolphins defense didn't look good against Pittsburgh, but they've been very good in the middle of the season. Defensive line has been good in Miami. Anthony Weaver's a fine head coaching candidate, but that would not include Denard Wilson as the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, Tony's got some good questions. That's who Sports Talk TN is. So it doesn't surprise me that he's done his homework and he's been tracking his team for a while. So that totally makes sense. Personnel at the end of the day is an important part of what they do. But obviously, like you just mentioned, Tyler, you've always said coaching is a huge component, and being able to have guys that not only teach technique and teach all the things that they need to learn, being good motivators. That's another thing. You can have a master genius at X's and O's and play calling and whatnot, but if he doesn't understand, first off, who he's coaching and putting them in the right position, it really doesn't matter. So you got to have that right combination. And Anthony Weaver, sure, he might check off a lot of boxes, and we'll see what his future looks like. Obviously, talent will rise to the top, and that's whether that's coaching or playing. But at the end of the day, it's got to have the right chemistry of both. You got to have somebody that can teach you the right way, the right position, where to be, where you're supposed to be, but then also be that person that lifts you up and motivates you to be the best that you can be, bringing out the best. That's what part of coach is. Coaching is just like father, like being a dad. You know what I mean?
It's a teacher.
You're trying to bring the best out of your kids. Exactly. So, there's a lot that goes along with that. Some people are just great technicians and they do a great job of designing and scheming up things. But when it comes to implementing or showing why it works, they don't hit the mark. But I'm sure that Anthony Weaver definitely has a future. It just may not be here.
And that's why Mike Vrabel's in a perfect spot now, because he is deficient in the scheme aspect of things. And Josh McDaniels is a terrible leader, but an incredible scheme guy. Josh McDaniels is a terrible head coach, but a great offensive coordinator. Mike Vrabel is a terrible coordinator, but a great head coach. Them two together has made a great combination. And the Titans need that sort of combination. Like I don't want an Anthony Weaver because I don't want a first-time head coach. I think the Titans need somebody with some experience to get this thing out of the mud. And they may not be the most exciting names, but like Robert Saleh, the San Francisco 49ers defensive coordinator. That guy is at the top of my list because he has experience. He's a motivator, but he's also a very gifted scheme guy on defense who's gotten the most out of that San Francisco defense with a ton of injuries. The New York Jets is where Saleh was before. His final 17 games as the head coach, the Jets were number 1 in EPA per play on defense. And the next 17 games after he was fired, they were 32nd in EPA per play. Think about that. Going from first to last in the NFL because you fired your head coach. How good might that head coach be on his side of the ball? You add in leadership qualities. I think Robert Saleh is a great option, but that's what I want. I want a guy who can handle his own side of the ball like a Mike McCarthy on offense, who's developed Dak Prescott and Aaron Rodgers, but also has that experience of being a former head coach and have some pelts on the wall so they're not completely lost in the sauce doing things for the first time with a big learning curve. Like Anthony Weaver seems like a good head coaching candidate. I don't think he gets hired this cycle, but he's just a little too young and too new for the Titans to take a chance on him, in my opinion. I want some more experience. That's where they need to go.
Tyler, I know you mentioned Saleh on your wish list. Let me ask you this though. Mike Borgonzi talked about, I don't care whether it's an offensive guy or a defensive guy, right? I just want the best leader for this team. However, the worry for me that if I get a defensive guy in there, an offensive coordinator comes in, and if they properly develop the way Cam is supposed to develop, and this offense looks night and day, that offensive coordinator gets poached. So what would you say to that, I guess, philosophy? I know that they're not looking, they want to just look at the best leader, but there is that worry as well when you just have an OC on an island, and if they develop somebody really well, they're gone the following year.
Julian, you're using my argument against me. It's difficult to hear this. You're right. That is a major concern, but I think we can't put the cart before the horse here. We can't be so worried about our offensive coordinator getting poached that we don't hire the best head coaching candidate. You know what I mean? Like we can't be like, well, we're going to have to replace the OC in 2 years when we play well, so we probably shouldn't hire this guy as head coach. Like we can't do that either. So I think if they got to hire the guy who checks the most boxes and not let that prevent them, because let's all be honest, Titans would be better off if they had Mike Vrabel back, even with the cycle of deadly offensive coordinators. Eventually, a smart coach would get it right. Like Nick Sirianni in Philadelphia, he had to go through different coordinators, but eventually he got it right. Like the right coach will look at the Texans. They bring in Nick Caley. That was a struggle at the beginning. D'Amico Ryans, can he get the OC right? Can he get Stroud back on track? And now that offense is kind of humming. So if you hire the right head coach, even if he's a defensive guy, I think he'll have the ability to hire the right OC eventually. And that's why I like Robert Saleh so much, because he comes from the Kyle Shanahan boys club. So he'll have access to all the different Kubiaks and all the different LaFleurs and all the different Shanahans, and he'll have access to all those guys for quite some time. Every new up-and-coming smart young coach under Shanahan or McVay or whatever, Robert Saleh will be able to poach them because of a good relationship. So I think he is ideally suited as a defensive candidate to defeat that concern in a unique way.
Indeed, and it's certainly something we'll keep an eye on moving forward. The Titans take on the Chiefs, noon Central Time, Sunday at Nissan Stadium. And it's not Patrick Mahomes, it's Cam Ward versus Gardner Minshew, just like everybody expected. Woo. Thank you guys for joining us here in the Titans Squad Show. We'll see y'all on game day.